game. He hits the corner three, but every single time the Thunder had the answer. There's Williams, part of his 34-point night. Off the miss, second chance points for Minnesota. 5-point game, cut to 2 as McDaniels hits the corner three. Late, it's a 2-point game. You got to get the miss, got to get the rebound. They can't quite do it. SGA throws it out of bounds, and they put .3 on the clock. I don't know how they determined .3, but that's what they put on the clock. And on the inbound, it's Williams who steals it. It was going to have to be something miraculous. There was no miracle for the home team. The Thunder are able to withstand 18 threes from Minnesota. Tim Legler joins me now. And Legs, I think the theme of every conversation I'm going to have with whoever we talked to tonight was the Thunder's ability to answer every single time that the Timberwolves made a run. Down 7, Timberwolves tie it up, answer. Late, every single time, Tim, they never let the home team take the lead. How important was it for them to constantly be able to keep it at minimum tied?
Completely agree. We talked about it a lot on the broadcast. It seemed like every time Minnesota got into one possession game where they're one stop away from potentially taking the lead, and you know what the reaction is going to be like in that building and how the energy is going to change, they weren't able to do it. And it was different guys, but primarily their stars. When you get that kind of an offensive performance out of Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren to go along with what Shai normally does, you know, it's a miracle, really. Minnesota was even in this game when you look at how quiet Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle were, and all three of Oklahoma City's big guns play that way offensively. It's incredible they were in the game. Great production across their roster, role players making three-point shots. They played hard the entire game, but they could not get over that hurdle because of the way Oklahoma City executed to get the shot that they wanted in the last 6 minutes and made those shots. Put too much pressure on Minnesota ultimately, and OKC now with a chance to go home and close this out.
It's an unbelievable performance from the bench. 64 from the bench and a dozen threes from Minnesota, and that helps offset the quiet night for Randle and the night from Anthony Edwards. And I'm interested, Tim, in your perspective, because when he only takes 13 shots, you're wondering, well, was he passive? Didn't look like that as much as it just like the focus of that Oklahoma City Thunder defense was to prevent him from getting loose. What did you see?
No, I agree with that. I do think at certain times in the first half, I do think he lacked the aggressiveness. But as the game wore on, I started to see why. I think he was really fatigued. And the reason, Scott, is because the number of different elite on-ball defenders that Oklahoma City can hand him off to on any given possession. Forget about the course of the game. You're talking about possessions where he's starting with Cason Wallace on him, elite. A switch happens. Now Jalen Williams has him, who's an all-league caliber defender. Oh, you don't like that? How about another switch later in the possession where Lou Dort ends up on him, or Alex Caruso? And by the way, if you finally do get some daylight and you get to the rim, Chet Holmgren's waiting for you back there. I think it was mentally and physically exhausting for Anthony Edwards to go up against that caliber of defender literally every second of the game. So it looked passive a little bit in the first half. The second half, I just thought it was a little bit of fatigue. Fortunately, his guys stepped up in a big way to keep them in the game, hoping for some late-game heroics out of their best player, but it just wasn't going to happen on this night.
Tim, you sat in this studio. You know that gigantic monitor. I'm looking at the 40 from Shai. That's a playoff high in his young career. Chet in his home state, a big night. But I'm staring at that number in the middle. Jalen Williams, Tim, 34 points. And you think of the most important shots, the gotta-have-it shots. It felt like he caught it, and that ball was in the air in the blink of an eye, and it was bottoms. What kind of confidence is that guy cooking with from where you're sitting?
Yeah, he's answered the call in a big way. You think about, go back a year ago, their number one seed, they get knocked out in the second round. He didn't play very well in that series, and people started to wonder, is that good enough as your second best player, who Jalen Williams is? Come into this year's postseason, he has a little bit of an up and down start to the postseason, but look at the way he played in the closeout game against Denver. Look at the way he's played in this series. Look at the way he played tonight. I thought he started the game with a mid-range jumper and a three right out of the gate. That set his night up. Now he's ready to go. and he was great late. There was a stretch when Shai was on the bench at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and Minnesota could not stop Jalen Williams. He carried their offense for a little mini burst of his own and bought them time until Shai came back in. Then he goes off ball and makes a couple of huge jumpers with all that attention given to Shai. This was a fantastic offensive performance for OKC, and a credit to Minnesota that they were able to put up that kind of a number on a night when their two stars were just really just not impactful. They were in the game. It's a testament to how hard they played, how hard they fought, but actually it's a bigger credit to OKC the way they executed down the stretch. It's a championship caliber close that they had to that game.
I totally agree. The ability to absorb those body blows and then throw haymakers of your own on the road, that feels like a team that's taking those giant steps towards potentially a championship. Tim, hold tight. As I always say, you know the drill. We'll be coming back to you in just a moment. Jalen Williams is going to join us shortly. I believe in the interim, we'll hear from Coach Finch as his team fought hard but comes up short. Finchy, Laga.
Tonight?
Absolutely. They had 40 between the two. You're not going to beat a team like this if you're certainly turning it over 20-plus times and letting them have a bunch of second-chance opportunities. And we knew that. So
Shai and J-Dub just really had it in the fourth. Like, what made it so difficult to defend and keep them from getting
they got to their spots and they rose up and made shots over us. But we got to do a better job of trying to contain that first dribble like we did game 3. Did a much better job there. So,
Chris, you have a balance between Ant going off and given what the game gives him. How do you think he played tonight?
I thought second half was more aggressive. He got downhill. We got him off the ball a little bit more. When he got to the paint, I thought he found some people, made the right plays. I think first half he lagged behind a little bit too much. He needed to get out in front so we could stretch the floor and screen for him a bit. But second half was much better.
Chris, similarly, what did you think of Julius tonight?
Yeah, didn't have a great night, obviously. Bench was really, really good, so I rolled with them. They were finding shots for each other. They shot the ball extremely well from the three-point line. Which we did a good job of finding those things, that's the guys that we chose to go with there. So
on the offensive rebounds, was it from your vantage point a matter of just effort, or was it?
No, it was they on a lot of them hit first. They rebounded well out of their area. They came from distance to get stuff. I think some of them were long. Those we were all trying to track back, and some of them were long, and we weren't able to get those, particularly later in the game. So
it was a 2-point game.
Yeah.
Was the difference in a 2-2 series or 3-1?
Yeah.
How do you kind of emphasis upon you guys that there's still more series to play?
Yeah, for sure, 100%. But this isn't the formula to get it done. And I think that's the most important thing to take away from tonight. So.